everyone to another edition of Play It Through, and on this edition it's Urban Champion, brought to us by Nintendo. Part of the Black Box series of early NES titles, this one being a part of the Action series of games. Probably one of the earliest attempts at any console to make a fighting game, Urban Champion ends up being a pretty shallow experience overall, and ends up probably being one of the shortest games to complete one run of. In the game, your goal is to knock your opponent backwards and knock him to the next building. And then at the end of every 3 buildings, you knock him into a manhole and then move on to the next building to fight a new guy. However, all the enemies are the exact same in each and every time you go through the game. While not necessarily a real bad game, it's just a rather shallow experience that gets boring rather quickly. During this run, I will complete the game a few times through, but even then it's still going to be a rather short run. So here we go with Urban Champion for the NES. The game can be played versus the computer, which is the main game, or you can actually do a 2-player experience. In the game, you control the blue guy, who I don't actually think has a name, but I could be wrong, as you punch your opponent to try to knock him to the next building. In each building, there's also a guy trying to throw potted plants down at you, which will stun you, or your opponent, and allow you to get a free hit or allow them to get a free hit on you. You have 2 types of punches though. You have a normal punch that's just a little short one that you can keep doing over and over, and a bigger punch which will instantly knock your opponent back, but it leaves you open for attack. You can see on the 3rd round, instead of knocking him to the next building, there's a manhole on the right side, and when you knock him into it, he falls down it, you get a nice little celebration of your guy celebrating and confetti falling down from the window. After a few seconds of the celebration though, you move on right to another building and begin the next round. You also have a boxing glove located in the bottom right corner, and you get one for each and every time you complete a round of 3. So you'll get one at the end of round 3, at the end of round 6, and the end of round 9, and so on. You also have a stamina meter that you have 200 stamina for each and every round. There's very little chance you're probably going to run out of your stamina before you end up taking out an enemy, but during one of these I'll show you what happens when you wait a while on a screen without actually continuing the fight. I think the opponents are supposed to get harder with each and every round, but overall they're still really easy, and once you learn a trick or two of just learning your timing with this game, you'll be knocking each and every one of your opponents right down a manhole in relative ease. You can see now that I've completed round 6, I have 2 boxing gloves in the lower right corner instead of just 1 now. There's also 4 or 5 different buildings that'll mix up their order and every time you go through the sets of rounds, so it's not always the same 3 buildings each set of 3. I do think the animation when you get clobbered on the head with one of the potted plants ends up being rather humorous. If you take too long to complete a segment, eventually the cops will end up rolling by and both you and your opponent will walk to the opposite sides of the street, looking nonchalant for a few seconds until the cop car goes by, and then you can continue fighting once again. Just like many other early NES titles, I don't think this one actually has an end. I guess it's just to see how many rounds you can go before you end up finally losing. I'm going to play through 18 rounds of the game and just show you at the beginning of round 19 what happens when all your boxing gloves fill up the lower right. I've played for about 25-26 rounds before, and then I've turned it off after that. So if it does have an end, I've never been able to see one. As far as strategy goes, it really is just kind of a rock, paper, scissors type thing going on. Whereas he's blocking the head, you're going to hit him in the stomach. If he's blocking the stomach, you're going to hit him in the head. If he's going for a long punch, you do a short one. After only playing for a few rounds, you'll probably have the controls mastered and finding yourself knocking guys in the manholes pretty fast. So here we have my final round, round number 18, and I'm just going to be punching the guy in the gut a couple of times, 4 times total, and I end up sending him right down the manhole for one last celebration with the confetti. And you can see at the beginning of round number 19, a flag appears instead of one of the boxing gloves. But anyway guys, that's going to wrap up this edition of Play It Through. I'd like to thank you for watching, and of course, I hope you enjoyed.